Welcome. And I know that it's my back-to-back day here. Usually I never go back-to-back, but I thought it was important to go back-to-back this time. So, and before we get started, I will again um, play a song here, just to give us a few minutes here. And this song here, hope your children are asleep because we're going to have one of the greatest guitar players to ever walk the face of the earth, and also one of the greatest piano players, and the type of notes they're going to be putting out into the ethers are notes. These notes are not for children, and hopefully your kids are sleeping. Welcome, Tinfoil. Now today is I'll kind of open up a little bit because after yesterday's presentation, I got a lot of a few people contacted me, um, and they're still not really grasping on genealogy, right? And a lot of people still need help with that, right? And of course, that is the key, the power to help you get back to your inheritance, your national treasure, your ancestors left you, right? Welcome, Lyrica. Welcome, D. And my good buddy Tony is in the house. I know it's late there where you are, Tony. So hopefully you can catch some of this. So I'll share some of my genealogy with the family, and then I'll also get into. There's also a lot of issues dealing with the law, right? And I'm just going to impress upon the family how important it is when it comes to whoever you choose to assist you, whether it's a bar member or yourself or whatever, or any individual. I always tell everyone you must um, demand that individual to present their resume to you. And what I mean by resume is their legal experience. You have to know their legal experience. I mean, what if it's a bar member who never won a case? What if it's a bar member who's been disciplined by the state bar several times, where maybe he or she had their license suspended for 6 months or a year? You have to do your due diligence, because when it comes to an ancestral inheritance, right? We can't play around with this. And when it comes to the law, you definitely can't play around because you don't have another shot. You get in there, your case gets summarily dismissed with prejudice, you're done. So there must be supreme level, cosmic level competence when it comes to anyone who's proclaiming to know the law, because we can't, have we can't, I don't want people taking wrong advice and getting screwed up, because it'd be very, very difficult to fix it, and then you'll never be able to claim your inheritance. Okay, so we'll play one song here. Now, yesterday was we got into code train and spiritual, but now because my genealogy, now we'll go down my paternal line today, and of course that's out of Louisiana, um, Bossier, Shreveport, and of course my great great grandfathers from Alabama. So I think it would be appropriate to play this particular type of music to get into the soil of the South, and we know what that type of music is, family. So let's play this song here, and then we will get started after this song here. Thank you very much. Thank you. How about a nice round of applause for the band? Let's give it to them, all right? Thank you.
round of applause for Mr. Slim. Brother McGee and Sonny Terry. Let's give him a nice round of applause. Come on, whoop it on. Mickey Baker, how about it? Let's give him a nice round of applause. Have you ever loved a woman so much you tremble in pain? Have you ever loved a woman so much you tremble in pain? Can you hear me? Let me tell you, all the time you know, she found another man. never sinned. All right. But let me tell you one more thing, you know. She belonged to your very best friend. I'm a hazel, yeah. I'm a hazel, yeah. Maxwell.
Yes, family. So we'll be getting started here right now. I just had to set the mood, set the tone. There's no better choice than Lord Freddie King when it comes to our ancestors, especially those from the South. And my great grandfather loved my great grandmother, even though that was his second woman and second family. Many of us come from that situation, family. Where the men in our families back in those days had two families. So we're going to get into a little bit about this here. But my great grandmother was brilliant, and although she mentally had to put up with a lot, but she had vision. So the house of Grisette were major landlords, but she knew with that name and that title and estate that the future offspring will come back to reclaim the estate, their inheritance. So she had a plan, right? And we're all going to need a plan here, family, moving forward. So let's get started here. First things first here, as always, when it comes to showing genealogical records, we have to move beyond alleged, right? Because again, as I state several times, imagine this is a oh yes, Chief Crazy Overstanding. That is the official image of Ordinando de Soto. You know that. A lot of people don't know that, but yes, it is. But yes, family. So as always, when it comes to presenting genealogical records, it must be done factually beyond a reasonable doubt and truthful. So it's not about just someone sitting up here showing records, because that still stays in the realm of alleged, right? You have to show and prove everything. And in a court of law, anything that's not shown and proved will be collaterally attacked and dismissed. Okay? So as always, I did this before. And I will do it again because I will be showing genealogical records. And so then I will show ID, and put the camera on, see my face, you connect me with that ID on that person's and that name, you know that's me. That's how we do it, family. And so that's when I give presentations. So when I do turn on the camera, is usually will be to identify myself, right? Because I'm not a personality, I'm not a comedian, I'm not an entertainer, I'm not going to rap and entertain you. So you don't need to focus on me. You need to be focused on the evidence that I'm presenting. That's what's important, right? So, um, and before we do that, I want to give some shout outs and honors to, of course, honors to my ancestors. Um, and to all of those who support me, and to everyone here who took time out in their evening to listen to this information, and for those who will tune in and watch it later on in the archives. I appreciate everyone. Um, this my whole purpose is to share information and help those who are heirs of landlords to acquire their estates. That's my purpose. I've been given that mandate from the ancestors. And so for the next few months, I will be putting word out. Um, and hopefully those that are heirs and who would choose to have me, assist them, of course, after doing your due diligence. And that's where we'll, talk privately, and I'll go over all details of my experience when it comes to the law and what I've done and my accomplishments, which then you can make your accurate decision as to whether or not you want to, um, choose me to assist you there, right? So, but I'm going to give shouts outs and honors to a lot of people who've been always supporting me. Shout outs to Empress Hobart. She always shares my lives on, and I appreciate that. True Searcher, he does it as well, and AP does it as well a few times there, and then all those who allowed me to even be in the cipher to give information to you, to everyone here. And then it all started, nearly 3 years ago, over 2 years ago, when I was on Holidays channel there. And then, that's how I got into this particular cipher. And I appreciate that opportunity. And then, of course, A1, shouts out to him. I originally presented my first 6 presentations on his platform from 2 years ago and last year. So I appreciate it, everything that everyone's done for me. And the current clients I do have and have helped, we're all connected in this. Had that never happened, I wouldn't be in a position helping the people I am helping currently now, right? Now, when it comes to the land patents, um, which was, I always stated this, and I'm honorable and will always give credit. This land patent information, who put it out there, and I got that from Janice. Always, I told her that directly, and so had that was the last stone to fill my infinity gauntlet, the last missing stone. And so with that stone empowered, oh my God, destruction now. So but I show appreciation to everyone. It doesn't matter. I don't get into personalities. It's nothing personal. But I always, appreciate every one who helped me get to this particular point, and for those that I'm currently helping. Right. So let's me identify myself to everyone here. All right. Let's share screen. Share screen. And everything I do here, it falls right in line with um, legal precepts, right, and principles. You get into genealogy, you have to connect yourself to the people you're showing, right? We need to know who you are, right? It doesn't work. So hopefully I should be screen sharing here. Let me go into the chat here so you guys can let me know that I am screen sharing. Okay, so first piece of evidence here is here. I'll show my ID here. Let's blow it up. Now, as everyone knows, I live in Japan. Okay. Let me make sure everyone can see this here. Okay, now I can see the chat. All right, Filio G, let me know, bro. Can you see this? Put a 1 in the chat if you can see this. Need to confirm that I am screen sharing so we can start off. Anyone put a 1 in? Okay, perfect. Thanks, Chief Crazy Overstanding, Empress Awaken. Awesome. All right, so you see this here. So I'm from the House of Grisette, okay? This is my Japanese ID. So you see that, right? And so you see that I am in Japan. I am who I say I am, right? So that's one piece of evidence. Let me show another. This is my expired passport. Let's blow this up, right? See that there? I'm originally from Los Angeles, California. So you do see that expired, with my name on it, right? My family from the House of Grisette. Everyone sees that, right? So now let's finalize it to make sure it still can be used as evidence, right? So now I will turn my camera on to match those picture images with my face. See that? So I can match my face with the face you saw in those IDs, right? So you know that's me. All right, so now we will start. Now, before we get into genealogy, we're going to get into the most important part, okay? Because things are opening up to us now, family, for a reason. Things are opening up to us compared to 30 years ago, 40 years ago, right? 30, 40 years ago, Afrocentricity dominated with no competition. And we were deep in under the sorcery during that time, right? And during no one, we were never even close. We had no remnants of an ancestral estate because they kept pulling us to a different continent, right? But if you notice, looking back at that family, they didn't even say, okay, well, the continent they were trying to pull us, where they did successfully physiologically pulled us to that continent. They still didn't talk about inheritance, right? Because you would think that, okay, well, if our ancestors are there, then that means there's an estate and inheritance for us over there. But there's never a discussion on that. So we were so deep under the sorcery family, we didn't know anything about inheritance or an estate. Nothing. Everyone else from every other nation, that's just part regular. It goes without saying, right? It's natural. But when it comes to us, for some reason, there's never a discussion of estate inheritance. Never. So if you're going to point us over to the continent you're calling Africa, where's the estate or inheritance there? Crickets, never mentioned. So now that we've been breaking these spells 30, 40 years later, family, we're on the precipice now of connecting to our ancestors who had massive land holdings, right? And so now the opponent, the enemy, and the enemy looks like us, family. So now that the spell's broken, so now the enemy wants to control the narrative and try to control things now. But that's part of warfare. There's always going to be an opponent trying to take us out. Our only duty is to craft master plans that we apply to fend off and counter their offense, and at the same time, we must punish them and take them out. That's just the battlefield that goes along with it, family. And we're prepared, and we are aware of that, right? So when it comes to claiming your inheritance, you must have supreme legal knowledge. If you don't have it, the person who's helping you must have it, because that's how you're going to get it, right? Now, this whole area of land patents, it's been a secret. No one knows about it. No one knew about that, right? But that came out, and everything's happening for a reason here. So it's the age of awakening, and the age of knowing, family, right? So now what the enemy's doing is okay, so now that you know, the enemy's job is to make sure you don't claim it by putting you on a false trail, leading you down a road where at the end there's a 1,000-foot cliff. You're gonna fall off of it, family. And when you fall off that cliff, what you think is gonna happen to your estate? Imposters will take it. Now the people who are outside your family, entities, have been controlling it and benefiting off of it financially. Okay, but we have these new enemies coming in here, and they want our names. They want to connect themselves to us, so they're gonna come in here and they look like us, and they're setting up these paths and these roads for us to go down so we could fall off that cliff, right? So we have to be diligent. We have to be that when a salesperson comes, we're not buying anything they're selling us, right? We can't be easy, family. You have to demand. Well, let me see your resume. You want to help me legally with this stuff? Well, let me see your legal accomplishments, because this is not a game to play with, family. The law is nothing to play with. All right? People get shot down daily and ripped off daily here. So I'm going to share again. I did it many times before. I went through a lot of the cases that I was involved in. But it appears when you think I'm lying, am I joking or something? So I guess I just I have to be repetitive. Now, of course, I won't get into too much details, but anyone's interested in getting details, you reach out to me in private, and we'll set up a private webinar, just the two of us, and I will go through everything in detail, walk it down to you and see it. My work is published, family. It's not talking theory or out of my anus. This is applied principles that got remedy. So let's show and prove here. So I mentioned before the current case, my client in New York. It's a pale skin, good friend of mine. He also lives in Japan, but he's from Queens, New York. Okay, and his adopted sister took their family house, land, property, and she fraudulently deeded it to herself with the help of a dirty bar member or a dirty lawyer. Now, that property was put into an irrevocable trust in 1997 by their parents. And then on that day, the parents selected their son, my client, and the adopted daughter as trustees, beneficiaries. Okay? Now, I won't get into trust law, but whenever you do set up a trust during your lifetime, you never want the trust to be irrevocable. Why is that? Because in my client's particular case, there are two grantors, the mother and the father, right? And it's irrevocable. It's difficult to amend it or change it when it's irrevocable during your lifetime. And then if after execution of the instrument, which means signing the instrument, let's say one of the grantors died. And in his particular case, both grantors as parents, and there is a limited power of appointment in the instrument, which will be exercised through their last will and testament, right? But the lawyer who drafted in 1997 made the mistake of not including the testamentary instrument along with that irrevocable trust instrument, right? So I won't get into too much legal details, but the issue is when it's irrevocable, it's different. You can't basically, it's difficult to amend it. So you always want to set up a revocable trust while you're living, because at law, when you die, it automatically converts to irrevocable. And while it's revocable, you can always amend it and change it, right? So, but the adopted sister fraudulently transferred title to herself with the help of her lawyer, right? So, and then I helped them out, and then we filed a lawsuit against her and her lawyer in his law firm. Okay, and I showed details of that case. Now, what I'm going to do here, I'm just going to show the orders during the time of that case. I'll show the orders. And now, sometimes when you initiate a lawsuit, family, sometimes not only will you have to, because basically it's a battlefield. You're matching wits with the opponent, right? And the opponent's usually a bar member. Sometimes, unfortunately, you may have to go up against a judge because you may get a dirty judge, a judge that's not going to look at your documents. It's going to side with the defendant. And you remember, when you're representing yourself, family, they're not going to respect you in the beginning, right? Because usually pro se litigants, they lose like 99% of their cases. They're losers, right? So their knowledge level or lack of, right? So I will show the first order. So in the particular case, it was the claims were, it was an Article 15 real estate property actions law, and that's particular to the state of New York, right? And then it was the second cause of action or claim was fraudulent misrepresentation. Okay, taking trust property and misrepresenting that trust property as a state property. So here's when we filed all this here, we unfortunately got a judge who didn't even look at none of the filings. Okay, so I'm going to show the first order that she issued in the matter. Okay, right here. All right, now, as you all, for those who've been involved with lawsuits, civil lawsuits, right, especially when you're the plaintiff, most of the time, defendants will always follow an MTD, a motion to dismiss. And of course, motion to dismiss are based upon 7 defenses, which are all in the Federal Rules of Civil Procedure. The most popular ones are 12B6, failure to state a claim upon which relief can be granted, right? Another one is, lack of subject matter jurisdiction, because this is a probate issue. The defendants, right? Now, just let me back up here. So the adopted sister fraudulently transferred title of the house to herself with the help of a lawyer. Okay. And they presented initially in 2014, she initiated probate. Now, as you know, family, trust property does not go through probate, right? It's a private matter. It doesn't go through probate. Usually testamentary property, if it's part of a will, but assets that are in a trust don't have to go through probate. Usually, right? So she initiated a probate action. He had to go through that, and that was way back in 2014. So I actually started helping him during that time. Got him out of that. But then in 2016 was when the adopted sister transferred the title, right? And then he was registered with something called ACRES, and for homeowners can register with this particular ACRES platform in New York, and if there's any changes in your title, you will be alerted. It's a fraud alert. And so he received a fraud alert in October of 2016 that title was changed. And that's how he knew that his adopted sister did that. And that's when he came to me, and then we initiated, and then we filed the lawsuit in December 4th, 2018, 3.5 years ago. Okay. So this is the first order. Hopefully you can see this here. Let me blow it up. Put a 1 in the chat if you can see this, family. Memorandum and decision in order. Can we see that? Yep, I guess, yep, we can see that there. Let me blow it up, okay? So as you see this case number here, right? And I showed some of the filings here. So September 9th, 2019, okay? Memorandum decision in order. So remember, the defendants filed their motion to dismiss the action, right? So the pro se plaintiff, James F. Peltzer, brought this action under Article 15 of the Real Property Actions and Proceedings Law against his sister Doreen and her attorneys for what he claims was the fraudulent transfer of his parents' estate to Miss Peltzer. Okay. And in February 2019, the defendants moved to dismiss the action. For the reasons that follow, I grant the defendant's motion to dismiss. So she granted the defendant's motion to dismiss, family. So what that means, my guy, his case is basically it's over. But of course, this being the final order, we can appeal. And as I told him, I said, okay, we have a judge who's not going to read and listen to anything you say. Don't worry about it. This is not our home court advantage. So we're going to get a better home court advantage in the Second Circuit, the federal appellate court, family. Okay? So now, but before that, so since she denied the motion, granted the defendant's motion to dismiss, so I filed what's called a motion for reconsideration, giving the judge another chance to look at the facts carefully and to reconsider and vacate this order and issue another order in my guy's favor. So I'm going to show that particular order. Okay? I'm going to show that order right here. Okay? January 24th, 2020. Let's blow it up so you can see it. On September 9th, 2019, I dismissed the pro se plaintiff's complaint, the order we just saw, family. And right on September 20th, 2019, the plaintiff moved for reconsideration of that order, which the defendants opposed. For the reasons that follow, the plaintiff's motion is denied. Wow. So that's a double whammy against my guy. The first order, she granted defendants motions to dismiss, right? And so then I filed a motion for reconsideration. She shot that down. Okay, so, but I told my guy, don't worry about it. We're gonna get a home court advantage in the Second Circuit, right? And of course, we go to the Second Circuit. And one of my presentations, I actually played the oral argument, 7-minute oral argument. I got very into detail about that, but I won't do that now. And now I'm going to show the mandate from the Second Circuit regarding this judge's 2 orders against my guy. Okay, here's the mandate. Here's the mandate right here. See that? It says mandate, United States Court of Appeals for the Second Circuit. Okay. Blow it up here. 3-panel judge, and it was the chief judge of the Second Circuit, Livingston, and Judge Parker and Judge Lynch. Okay. All right. So it's the mandate, which was issued November 24, 2020. Upon due consideration, it is hereby ordered, adjudged, and decreed that the orders of the district court are affirmed in part, vacated in part, and remanded for further proceedings consistent with this order. What was vacated? Okay, well, let's take a look here. All right. So the district court judge dismissed it for on two principles, family. One was lack of subject matter jurisdiction, okay, and the other one was the what's called the what's it called there? It's the probate exception. Yeah, that's what it was, probate exception. But let's look at this here and see what the Second Circuit, how they ruled regarding whether or not the judge had subject matter jurisdiction. Okay. All right. In the context of a dismissal, let's blow it up so everyone can see it. So this is walking you through and just demonstrating competency, family, because we're all not stupid. And I'm not going to, some of us have gifts, right? So let's go over this here. In the context of dismissal for lack of subject matter jurisdiction, pursuant to Rule 12b-1, we review the district court's factual findings for what? Clear error. And its legal conclusion, de novo, right? Now, let's see here. Okay, let's get to where they shoot her down here, right? All right, the gravamen of both causes of action in Pelcher's complaint was that the defendants committed fraud by presenting the trust property as estate property when completing the executor's deed, either because an attorney did not sign it or because there was no court order transferring the trust property to the estate. Okay? To the extent that he sought relief in the form of orders transferring the house to himself, of course, that's different. Okay, so this claim thus falls within the probate exception to federal jurisdiction and was probably dismissed. So, right, so probate exception, family, deals with if the state court, the probate court, has custody over the property, the real property, then the federal courts do not have jurisdiction because it's a probate matter and they don't have jurisdiction to get involved with any kind of res or real property that's in the custody of the probate court, right? But our argument was it was outside the scope of the probate exception, right? And the Second Circuit agreed, and we're going to get to that portion there. Right here. Accordingly, Pelcher's damages claim is not within the scope of the probate exception, and the district court erred in dismissing it on that basis. Okay? So basically, the order from the district court judge dismissing my guy's case for because of probate exception, it just got shot down. That judge made an error in her reasoning. And we see that right here. Okay. Now let's go down to the other order. Because remember, she also denied the motion for reconsideration. So the reconsideration motion. Okay. Let's get down to the pertinent part here. Right here. Here, the district court erred in denying reconsideration of its dismissal of Pelcher's claim for damages because, as discussed above, that decision rested on an error of law. So both of the judge's orders against my guy got shot down by the Second Circuit. And then it was remanded back for further proceedings, which means we went back to the district court to continue his case. Right? So, so sometimes you have to go up against a judge, family, but you have to have supreme level knowledge and know how to yield and use the law against these type of enemies. And again, this is divine work. I'm just a tool vehicle from the divine energy of the ancestors working through me, who gave me this power and knowledge, family. nothing to be to brag about. So it's the power of the ancestors working through me, right? So we go back down to the district court, and then I amended this complaint, and then I'm going to show you the order, the recent order this year, right now, because the defendants against the amended complaint again filed a motion to dismiss, and this is the order. You see the date, February 24th, 2022. Okay, decision and order, right? Let's blow it up so you can see this here. The plaintiff sues the defendants, his sister, and the law firm that represented their father's estate for fraudulently transferring ownership of his parents' house as if it were part of his father's estate after the father died, when it was actually part of a trust controlled by the plaintiff and his sister. I previously dismissed the plaintiff's complaint for lack of subject matter jurisdiction because I found that it fell within the probate exception. The Second Circuit affirmed my decision in part and vacated in part, concluding to the extent that the plaintiff sought ownership of his parents' house that fell within the probate exception, but his claim for damages for the alleged fraud fell outside of the probate exception. So, on remand, the plaintiff filed an amended complaint, which the defendants moved to dismiss. For the reasons discussed below, the defendants' motions are denied. So, I got that judge to play right. So she, and because when you go in pro se family, they're not going to give you credit because they, again, we can't blame them because they're playing the numbers. 99% of pro se litigants get their cake, they lose. But they went up against a guy who was backed and supported with divine energy and power from the ancestors family. And it was shocking for them. So the defendants, this is basically what my guy's going to win this. The case is over basically. So and then right now we're waiting for the judge to issue her final decree in this matter, and she just denied their motions to dismiss. And then just to give you a little bit of knowledge, matter of fact, let's go to the docket just real quick before I move to another part of my resume to show some of my other legal escapades I never lost a case, by the way. But let's just go to the case. Let's just go right to Pacer, right? Let's see this particular case. Walk right through with the family. Again, my work is published. I don't talk theory. It's published. It's applied from my mind with the pen, writing these documents, right? So let's put this case number here is 2018. Yeah, CB 6887, right? That's the case number. And where you just saw those, we can go right to the case docket, okay? So family need to see, you need to witness competency from someone who looks like us, so you can make an accurate decision and not take wrong advice. So this is the case here, right? This is the docket, all right? This is everything filed in here, okay? So it would go right down to the bottom, the most recent filings, right? All right, so the order denying the defendant's motion to dismiss family was order on motion to vacate. So that the lawyer, the sister's dirty lawyer, started doing crazy stuff. So that order I just read. So let me share this with you here. Let me share this with you here. Scheduling order, notice of appeal, order on motion to dismiss. Okay, items docket 63 was the order on motion to dismiss, which we just read. Okay. Now the judge issued a scheduling order on the same day here. Now let's open this up. What she wanted us all to do here. I know it's difficult to read, but I can't blow it up. But so basically, the parties are directed to file by April 1st, 2022, letters no longer than 3 pages explaining why or why not the Alfred and Josephine Peltzer irrevocable trust did not terminate upon the death of the grantors. And whether by the language of the trust agreement, the property remained in the trust, did not become part of my guy's father's estate. Just 3-page documents which you all filed, right? But the dirty lawyer, on the other hand, did not file the 3-page document on time, family. You know what he did? He filed a notice to appeal at the Second Circuit. Now, this is a lawyer, family, who should know the rules of procedure. He filed a notice of appeal. You can't appeal. You can only appeal an order that's appealable, which is a final order. No final order had been issued yet. So then, the law firm, I guess, his brother, they hired. They just took him off the case because he was representing the case himself. Took him off. They hired a lawyer, and they just been just fumbling and bumbling like Keystone cops, right? Keystone lawyers don't know what they're doing. So then, the circuit court issued a mandate, sending it back because it was a frivolous notice of appeal because you can only appeal a final order. So now we're waiting for. So then they filed their 3-page document. Now we're waiting for the judge to issue her final order. Okay. Now the damage amount my client's asking for on the face of the complaint is $1.1 million, severally for defendants. There are 3 defendants. So that's a total of 3.3. Because of the lawyer's conduct, we may hit him with treble damages. And, that's something where an officer of the court, being a lawyer, is kind of like fraud upon the court. They basically lie to the court, right, to try to get a ruling in their favor. So they can be punished by that, but you can hit them with treble damages, which would be 3 times the damage amount, right, that you were asking because of their fraudulent misrepresentation to the court. Okay, so I went over this case many times. Now, when it's finally over, family, and my guy receives his damages, we will go over this in details if you want to, right? So I want to briefly show something else here. And this was back in 2015. I had a client, family, a rich, very wealthy Japanese guy. And he had a patent, a technological patent. So he needed some help. My friend introduced me. And his patent was very, very interesting. And it was infringed upon. So he had a patent to where if you have a smart watch in the smartphone, it's called a smart lock. So when you put on your smart watch, you sync it to your phone. If you forget your phone somewhere, you walk away at a certain distance, the watch will vibrate or trigger an alarm to let you know you forgot your phone. That's the technology. Now, of course, that Japanese client of mine, he's not an engineer. He just somehow managed to get his hands on that patent. He bought it from supposedly this Japanese attorney who he only bought it for the equivalent of like $30,000. Now, the original engineer who filed that patent was a Japanese engineer back in the early 1990s. Okay. Now, so then I looked at the patent, looked at everything, and then I looked at certain companies, and so Google was one of the defendants. Huawei, Motorola, Asus, right? So I wrote this complaint, created, the whole strategy, how we're going to do everything. I strategically chose the venue, which was a little small federal court in Marshall, Texas, eastern part of Texas, an hour drive from Shreveport, right? Why did I choose that court? Because that was patent plaintiff friendly. 86% of the plaintiffs won in that Eastern Marshall District Court. So I chose that particular court. And then on July 31st, 2015, we flew out there from Japan to Texas and we filed the complaint. But unfortunately, what ended up happening, this was a client from hell. His number 2 manager, I think he got jealous of me, and so he kind of sabotaged. And then once I did the work filing the complaint, the guy convinced my client that, oh, we don't need him now. We got the complaint. And then they basically got rid of me. But the contract I had with him, he breached. But then he tried to sue me, and I ended up suing him in Tokyo District Court. It was just a mess, family. But I'm going to show you here. We're going to go to the case number here. But first of all, this is the email where I created the complaint. And you see here, August 10, 2015. And you see patent complaint, right? From me to Ichinomiya. Just open this up so everyone can see this here, okay? So we see this here. Eastern District Court, Eastern District of Texas, Marshall Division. So we see that. That was the particular court venue I selected for him here. So we see him. Here's the plaintiff, Eugene. That's my client, Fujinomaki, pro se, plaintiff. Now here, these are all the defendants. Google, Samsung, 3 divisions, Motorola, a couple of them, LG Electronics, right? Asus Tech, Huawei, all these big time global tech companies were infringing upon his patent, right? And complaint for patent infringement. You know, I know I don't look the part, family. I know I don't look the part. You know, we've been programmed and indoctrinated to hate ourselves. We don't have confidence in ourselves. So when it comes to people who look like us, and when it comes to them supposedly being competent and knowing the law, it's difficult to believe. And it's for anybody. I know it. I'm kind of like relegated to myth and legends, family. I understand that, but I accept that wholeheartedly because you know what? It's all, as the art of war, Sun Tzu says, you know, you want to be small. Let your opponent think that they're smarter and bigger. So I'm in a position where no one ever see me coming. Right? Now, mind you, family, I'm not the litigant in any of these cases. No, I'm taking people who know nothing about the law and putting, the invisible hand writing on their documents. So this is the complaint I wrote for him and filed. Right? Now, what ended up happening in this case, it got very ugly. And he could have won this case, but he got ugly. He literally tried to jail me, family, in Japan. Somehow, because he had connection with the Japanese, with a couple of police officers, they went to the prosecution office, and I get this call all of a sudden to go to the prosecution office, and they had this thick case file on me, basically saying that I was selling my former client's trade secrets to Google, just trumped up charges. And the guy, I was facing 20 years in jail, in a Japanese jail, family, and a $200,000 fine. Now, of course, it was ridiculous. And I explained to the prosecutor, I said, well, okay, now this guy's an idiot. And so then I explained to him, first of all, his patent was not in his company's name. It was in his name. So his company did not own the patent. He did as an individual. So that's what we call ultra-virus, right? Because this company's basically area of business had nothing to do with with those technological patents, and the patent was not in his company's name. So because of my ability to also yield and use the Japanese law, I did not do 20 years in jail, but he tried to do that, family. So I had no choice but to get back at him. I had no choice. And he ended up losing this case, and he got hit with sanctions because Google filed a motion for sanctions against him, and he still owes Google over $2 million, but he's been running and hiding because he's far way over here in Japan. But yeah, I just wanted to show that when you're grounded in the law, family, I can apply to any situation. If it's a probate matter, if it's a technological patent matter, if it's a land patent matter, If it's I had a client where the fidelity title insurance screwed him, and I helped him out. So because the law is the law, and you can apply it to any different fact pattern, doesn't matter the area. So that's the level I'm at. All right. And so my opponents are bar lawyers and judges, and you just seeing with your own eyes a judge who dismissed my guy's case, but my ability to yield the law, I got her orders vacated by the appellate court. Okay, so this is what I felt the family needed to see in order to make accurate um, choices when it comes to you claiming your estate. Now, whether you can afford a bar member, that's fine. But my advice to you, do your due diligence on that bar member. Research their resume, research their case experiences. Um, Make sure they were never disciplined by their state bar. You got to do all of that, family, right? So, and we will stop there. Again, I've been involved in so many cases. If anyone wants more details about any other case, and again, I went over my grandmother's case with the properties my grandmother put in the trust for us, and I had to unfortunately sell those properties because of family members, right? But I showed details of my filings in that particular case because my grandmother selected my sister as trustee, right? And I had to write the documents for my sister, and it got very ugly. We had a dirty judge there. I got that judge disciplined by the California judicial, the Commission on Judicial Performance. Filed a complaint against him. He did get disciplined. That rarely happens. So I went through all that with the family. So, but it's like it goes into one ear and out the other, right? So right now, because we're down to the nitty gritty, and those that I am helping, they are secure in knowing that I have the ability to help them, right? So I took land patents and deeded it to individuals. Already done. I laid the blueprint. Georgia jurisdiction, Virginia, Mississippi, soon to be Louisiana. So I've shown and proved. So now let's get to the genealogical portion of this here. Genealogical warfare, family. Okay. Genealogy, that's like your gold. It's the most precious thing. Family names and inheritance, family. The whole notion that you got your name from slave masters to, I mean, that is Comedy Central. That's $1 million comedic material. First of all, no one gives names to a stranger, definitely not a slave. Because if you give your name to the slave, that individual is no longer a slave. You just gave them status. Because a name is connected to title, estate, and status. So you don't give that away to someone who's not part of your bloodline. So that's the first spell that you must break. That's the first spell. Because a real slave would love to get the master's name for title in the state because that person no longer the slave. If that, think about it. You give your servant your name and that is registered on the public record and it becomes truth at law, that person no longer your servant. So break that spell, family. Get out of that. Your name is not a government name. Don't spit that into the ethers. It's your house. It's your family that's connected to title and estate. Has nothing to do. Wasn't given to you by the government, especially this corporate government that we're currently dealing with. They've been stealing and hijacking your family names, family. That's what they've been doing. When you see, that's how you know no one's taken a deep dive into genealogy. The ones that went deeply down the rabbit hole in their genealogy, they will uncover and see it themselves. The hijacking of their family names, the duplicate copies of their names with imposters on it. I can't tell you about it, but when you go down that rabbit hole, you will see it with your own eyes. And that's how you can tell whether or not who really understands genealogy. Right? So, yeah, of course they want you to believe it, put you under the spell that you got your name from some so-called slave master, so you'll never research your genealogy because your your family name's been hijacked. They don't want you to see that. All right, so let's first start off with, so you saw my ID, right? Now I'm going to show my father. This is on my paternal line. My father's obituary, because I got to now connect myself to the paternal individual, my father, right? So this is, he's not living now. This is his obituary here. Hopefully you can see this here. Okay. He had his own limousine companies, by the way, family. So the cover of his obituary is him sitting in his limousine, right? As you see here, in loving memory, Wallace Lee Grissett, okay? Born August 7th. Let's blow it up so you can see this here a little bit closer. Let's just get to this part here so everyone can see that properly there, okay? All right, Wallace Lee Grissett, August 7, 1947. Okay, he died December 29th, 2018. Okay, now, he actually never was like that real father to me, family, never took care of me at all, right? And he was 19 when he impregnated my mother. He was 19. She was only 16, by the way. So they were even never married. Okay, so, and but he was around there. He was around, and of course when I got older, he would come around a lot as well. And then I do remember when I was 6, 7 years old. I was still going over to his house, and then of course my grandmother Isabel. I knew her there. Now, so my father had 2 siblings, an older brother Fred Grissett, and then an older sister Barbara. Okay. Now, this Wallace Lee family, as you know, many of our family, the names passed down. Okay, so this name has been just recycled from other ancestors. So, like my father's brother. So my father got his name from his uncle, who's also Wallace Lee Grissett. Okay. So let's go to the next image. So start with my paternal line, and we'll go to the next image here. Let's see here. Now I have to download this so I can flip it straight. All right. Okay, here we go here. Now let's blow this up so the family can see this. Okay. Because now we need to go to my grandfather. We need to make the connection. So I made a connection to my father, right? So you see here, obituary, Wallace Lee Grissett. Born August 7, 1947, 2 parents, Fred Grissett and Isabel Grissett in Los Angeles, California. Okay, so my grandfather's Fred Grissett. right? Fred Grisette. So, Fred Grisette. So we will, let's close these out here. So I'm making a connection to my grandfather now, Fred Grisette. So now we're going to go over to Ancestry here. Okay, so Fred Grisette was born December 31st, 1903 in Bossier City, Louisiana. Okay, Bossier, Louisiana. Now, he moved to Los Angeles in 1943. And unfortunately, he died 4 years later, January 6, 1947. Now, remember, my father was born August 7th, 1947. So when my father's father died, my father was still in his mother's stomach. She was like maybe 2 months pregnant. And of course, my grandmother already had 2 other children, Barbara and also Fred. So my uncle Fred's named after my grandfather Fred. So that Fred name passed down, right? So there, yes. So that's a connection there, right? So he moved to Los Angeles, and my father. Now I must say this, family. My father's sister, my auntie Barbara Ann Grisette. She's no longer with us. Unfortunately, she got involved with the Jim Jones op. I don't know if many of you may not be familiar with Jim Jones, but he went down to part of South America and killed people and killed my auntie family. And you know the cover stories that they drank Kool-Aid poisoning, but they were shot. Now my auntie's body was flown back with my cousins, her children, to Los Angeles, and her body was riddled with bullets. So she was killed there. So my auntie's no longer with us. And that was back in 1978, 79, I believe, when that tragic event occurred down in South America. So I wanted to share that with the family. All right. So now, when you're doing your genealogy, family, again, we use these platforms like Ancestry, MyHeritage, etc. But they all, you're going to hit walls. Sometimes you're not going to get accurate information, right? And so we have to use many different, tools, right? And of course, your foundation is to talk to your other older family members to get information, right? And then when it comes to our purpose, because we want to empower genealogy, that will not only get to know who our ancestors were on the maternal and paternal line, but we wanted to empower because many of our ancestors were landlords all across the South, right? And they left us a treasure, an inheritance. And I think that, because many, our grandparents, they had secrets. They didn't tell us anything, basically. And I think maybe they wanted us to figure it out. And that gets right back to us being worthy, right? Only those who are worthy will be led down this path to uncover our national treasures, family, right? So we always have to cross-reference and confirm everything, especially when it comes to these databases. And now, ultimately, you will have to go to the archives in the particular counties where your ancestors were born, because a lot of those records are there, especially the ones that, remember, those of us that are heirs of landlords, they're not going to make it easy to find out information about them. and that's intentional. Okay, so you're going to have to ultimately go to those archives and pull those records, because those records are deep in the basement, locked up, collecting dust. But they're there. They are there. You have to get them. Okay, so now let's move further down on Fred to who his father was. Okay, now the key here. So like when you pull up the and also Fred's mother. All right. Now, how I found out about the mother was my grandfather's brother, Wallace Lee Grissette's death certificate. Okay, that had his mother's maiden name on it, which was Richards. And then, of course, talking to family members, my uncle, who's still living with us, he's 75. He said that great grandmother was his father's mother's name was Martha Richards. Okay, so with that information, Martha Richards, I found. Let's go to this here. Right. Let me show you something here. Martha Richards. Because the census records, right? You have to know how to surf your way through them. So let's go right here. Okay. And then, of course, my uncle always told me these stories. He told me that, his father's oldest brother, Thomas Grissett, or Tommy Grissett, fought in World War One in France, and he never returned. That's the oldest brother, right? So this is the 1900 census. So when you're going through these records, you're gonna have to really search stuff to get information, right? So let me share this. Let me blow this up here. Okay, 1900 census, Bossier, Halton, Louisiana. Now, you always got to go to the top, right, and know what area we're talking about on these census records. And the key here is Ward 6, family. Okay? Okay, so county, state Louisiana, county Bossier. But this is the key here. Many of these counties will have different wards. Ward 6. That's key, right? So you got to, when you're going through these records, the ward, if you're in counties with different wards, Texas has a lot of wards, Louisiana has wards. So you always want to try to focus on a particular ward if you're trying to connect other family members that may not be on certain census records, right? So this census records total 5 pages, right? So here at the bottom, here's my great grandmother Martha. Now this is 1900. Let's blow it up. Okay. So Martha Grissett, and then you got the spelling now, because usually it's Grisse. They have an I here, but there's always going to be misspelling. So, and names going to be spelled differently, both during the time and of course modern sorcerers will misspell names to throw you off. Okay, so during this time, Martha. Now, when you look closely here, it has her as head, but the enumerator for some reason put a question mark, because that's strange. You're like, wait a minute, she's the head, and when you go further down here, it says here single or married. It has her married. So, and of course she's born in 1874. She was 26 at the time in 1900. The enumerator is like, wait a minute, you're married and you're here by yourself, and your husband's not home. So he put a question mark there, right? And I took that hint, and it led me down the correct path, because it did seem strange. So the children, Tommy, it's the oldest brother, Carrie Lou Grissett, Dolly Sue, and Annie Pearl, and Willie. Now, of course, my grandfather wasn't born yet. He's born in 1903, right? And then my uncle, Wallace Lee Grissett, was born, the last child, 1910. Okay? So, I started looking through all these other census records, and then I found this name popped up, Pinckney Grissett. Right now, let me show you something here. So let me go here. Go here. Pinckney. Okay. So he's born 1861, but he's also born in Bossier, Louisiana, in the same Ward 6, right? So, and when I pulled the same 1900 census record, family, we just saw the one with my great grandmother Martha, but you pull this one and it had Martha with, at the time, 5 children and a question mark as to why she's in the household without the male, right? And Ward 6. So here's the same year, 1900 census, different month, Bossier, Louisiana, Ward 6, right? So, let me blow this up. Let's blow this up here. So, because, so when you're doing your genealogical research, family, you got to be, you got to look for the smallest little details, smallest little crumbs can lead you right down the correct pathway here, right? So again, Louisiana, County Bossier, boom, look at that, Ward 6. Same as the other with my great grandmother, same Ward 6, but she's there by herself without a man. But this 1900 census, same Ward 6, and it has Pinckney Grissett, right? And we see this right here. Pinckney Grissett, he's the head, and he has a wife named Ellen, right? And then they have 1, 2, 3, 4 children, and then there's an Eva Collins, who's Pinckney's sister. So then I'm thinking to myself, wait a minute. Pinckney Grissett, Ward 6. So then what I started doing, family, now you see this is 38 pages. So you got to go through all the separate pages, page 27 of 38. You got to go back from 1 to 26, from 28 to 38 to try to find another male Grissett who could have been with my great grandmother, right? So I did all that. Then I go to the 1910 census. Then there's only Pinckney with Ellen and his family. And then 1920, Pinckney again with Ellen and his family. Nothing. Right? So then I started looking up Pinckneys in that area who could have impregnated my great grandmother. Now there's one, I'm going to show you. There's a Jack Grissett. Okay? Because you have to confirm everything here. Put this in here. So go to my grandfather, Fred. Which now all this, I'm just kind of just going back over this. But I cleared all this up last year, family. But I'm just going to go back over how you got to think and approach and use stuff when you're doing your genealogy. Because a lot of people still need a lot of work on that, right? Bossier, Louisiana, right? Put that Bossier, Louisiana. Search now. Okay. That's my grandfather. Okay, so now shout outs and honors to Aretha, my client. She, hooked me up with archives here. I didn't know anything about it. She introduced it to me, and is awesome. And it does a lot of things that Ancestry and MyHeritage, it gives out information that I couldn't find on Ancestry or MyHeritage, right? So, and they have this little feature, view his story. So you click on this, and you get, this so-called story deal, right? So yes, he's born 1903. Now, the year's wrong here. He didn't die in 1946. He died in 1947. And the date's wrong. He died January 6, 1947. Right? So again, you have to always constantly confirm the information we find by using these sites, right? But the ultimate record is the record you're going to get from the archives. Okay, he lived in Shreveport, Caddo, Louisiana. And of course, I said, now look at this. Fred's family doesn't have his mother, and it has parents, some guy named Jack Grissett, right? So early on, when I was doing all this last year, I did research on who Jack Grissett was, because there was a Jack Grissett. Now let's go here, who was born in Bossier, Louisiana, but he was born in Ward 5. And he moved to Texas in the 1890s. He got married in Texas and stayed there and died in Texas. So it wasn't my grandfather's father. So, but let me just show you. When you go Jack Grissett, and he was born in 1865. 1865. And he was also born in Bossier, Louisiana, but he was born in Ward 5. Bossier Parish, Louisiana. So we click on this because you have to confirm stuff to make sure that that's the relative or not, right? So we see here, Jack Grissett, 1865, Ward 5, Bossier. Now my people Ward 6, right? But let's look at this together. Here's the census, 1870 census here. Okay, let's blow this up so the family can see this here. So you see that? Inhabitants, 5th Ward. Okay, county of, what does that say? Oh, parish. Okay, parish of Bossier, Louisiana, Bellevue, right? 5th Ward, family. And there he is right here. Jack Grissett. He's 5 years old in 1870 because he was born in 1865. Okay. So early on, you're going, okay, well, maybe that could be the father. Maybe that could be the father. So, well, we got to get records of him when he's older, right? So, let's see here. Okay, right here. Right here. Jack Grissett. View his story. Okay, so he's born in Louisiana. It's the same Jack Grissett here. Married 1897. He was a day laborer. And 1900, he's living in Kaufman, Texas. His wife, Lizzie White Daniel. Children, Grady Grissett, Tilly Mae Grissett. They're in Texas, though, in 1900. I just showed you the 1900 census with my great-grandmother, Martha, in Halton, Bossier, Ward 6, with their children. Now, of course, my grandfather was born in 1903, but he was not born in Texas, so that crosses out Jack as being the father, right? So, then I ended up getting more information from family members. My cousin told me about a Helen Gainey. And then through Helen Gainey, I connected her with Carrie Lou Grissett, my great-grandmother's second child, born in 1892. And then Helen Gainey's granddaughter, Brandy Hudson, lives in Minnesota. I did reach out to her, but for some reason she doesn't want to talk to me. Like I don't know, people start freaking out when you contact them. about you being you guys being related, and so, but but when I do claim the estate, I will reach out to her again and give her share there. I will do that, but yeah. So you're going to get information from family members. You gotta um, you know you gotta compare and do all that, and you gotta cross and eliminate people out. So Jack Grissett, although he was born in Bossier, it was different Ward 5. That's why these wards are important. And he married and he moved to Texas, and he died there. So that couldn't have been my grandfather's father, right? So then on the original, I just showed you the 1900 census with Martha and her 5 children, and Tommy and Carrie Lou. Carrie was a major link for me, family, right? Because the Helen Gainey, and then I managed to connect her. Well, actually, my cousin went to the Louisiana State Archives physically to pull records on Carrie and Ruth Grissett to connect to Pinckney Grissett. And now, but with this archives that Aretha introduced me to, let me show you this, family. So, and I never knew about this particular site, but I would recommend getting this particular site, family, right? So let's put in my great grandmother Martha, right? Martha Grissett. Maiden name Richards. Birth year 1874. Location Bossier, Louisiana. Click on this on the archives. So Martha Grissett here, we click on this here. And again, they have this feature, view her story, right? We click on this. And it gives this here, washerwoman, born in 1874, Bossier, Halton, Louisiana, married 1891. Now, all that connects to the 1900 census, because in our 1900 census, it said she got married in 1891, right? But again, I already know that she was the second woman, okay? She worked as a washerwoman in 1900. So she was working in Shreveport, because I have other records like city directories of where, addresses where your ancestors lived. Those are important documents as well. And she was living across Red River. On the other side, you have Shreveport, and then on the other side, you have Bossier. But she was working on the other side of the river in Shreveport, right? So what does it say here? Spouse Pinckney, and they misspelled it, Grissett. Okay, children, Carrie Lou Grissett, Annie Pearl Grissett, Tommy Grissett, that's the first child, Willie, Dolly Sue, Fred Grissett, my grandfather, and then Ruth Grissett, and then Wallace Lee Grissett, who my father's named after, his uncle, and that's my cousin's father, okay? So now when you click on Pinckney, born 1861, Louisiana, married 1884, but that's his other first woman. And that's the woman on the census records with him, with those children. Teamster, farmer, and what does this say, family? General farm. Whenever you see this on your census record, that your ancestors had a general farm, owned his own account, that means they were a landlord. They own land. That's what that means. Okay? And continue. Police Jury Ward 6. That's why these wards are important, family. Bossier, Louisiana. And remember, during these times, these are small communities. Everybody knows everybody, right? And then here, Pinckney's family, Ellen Grissett, his main woman. Now, look at the bold, everything written in bold. These are Ellen's children. Maddie, Sally, Sambert, Eliza, Henry Grissett. Now, Henry Grissett, I have him on a city directory with my grandfather, Fred Grissett. They were neighbors. And then in 1943, my grandfather moved to Los Angeles. And when he died in 1947, that's the year Henry Grissett moved to Los Angeles. Okay? And then Pinckney Grissett Jr. and Lucille Grissett. Now, look at the children, but it's not in all caps, lower caps, because these are the children he had with my grandmother, Martha. Carrie Lou Grissett, Annie Pearl, Tommy Grissett, Willie Grissett, Dolly Sue, Fred Grissett, my grandfather, Ruth, and Wallace Grissett. Total of 15 children, family. 15 children by 2 different women. All right? Now, but, again, my cousin, we got Carrie Lou and Ruth Grissett's birth and death certificates that he got when he went down there, connecting them to Pinckney. So you got to make sure that you're connected 100%, that is indisputable, because we're going to use these genealogical records as exhibits, evidence when you're claiming your land patents. It's not 23andMe. You attach genealogical records. Okay? So now, who's this Pinckney Grissett? Well, let's go back here. To Ancestry here. Okay? Put him in here. So they're going to give you records, land records, right? Right here. Look at this. Right here. We have this here. Louisiana Homestead Patents. Click on this. Let me click on the other one because they're not actually showing you. Okay, we click on this. It says Pinckney Grissett, Land Office, Nanitokes, document number, signature, yes. Cancel document, no, still valid. Issue date, April 13th, 1903. Did the United States federal government reserve mineral rights? No. What about meets and bounds? No. Multiple patentee names? No. Just my great-grandfather. Entry classification, homestead entry or original. Now, don't the warlocks tell you, family, that the Homestead Act, based upon 1862, were for pale skins? Don't they tell you that? It's a lie. It's a lie. So let me pull up the actual, now, let me pull up the actual patent here. Let me pull this up here so you can see this here. Pinckney land patent. Okay. Now I showed this because I already drew first blood. I sent an email to the Bureau of Land Management representative, Mr. Radford, Frank Radford. I did share that in a previous presentation. I'm going to show you why I sent that information. But this is my great-grandfather's land patent. And it is a homestead land patent. Okay. It's the number, Pinckney Grissett, right? 160 acres and 50 hundredths of an acre. Okay. Now, we see here, let me blow this up so the family can see this, because this is why I sent the email. To having to hold the said tract of land with the pertinences thereof unto the said Pinckney Grissett, and look at this here, family, and to his, and look what we have here, heirs crossed out. And this is a line. Now, this is a federal crime, because when it comes to federal instruments, there's a whole section on mutilation of federal instruments, altering federal instruments. They can't do this. So I emailed the BLM representative, sent him a copy of this. He saw it, got back to me, and I shared all that before. I'm not going to do it now, but basically the representative said, "Oh, that was not our intention. The heirs can claim it." But I got that, and that email correspondence will be used as evidence when I go claim my own land patent. Right here now, right? So, but let's go deeper, family. Let's go deeper. So, and I told the family about this many times. You have to look up the old newspapers during the time your ancestors lived, because they could have been important in those communities. They could have been, the big, the big time people in those communities, and they would have been written about in those old newspapers, right? So I'm going to share this again. It's called the Bossier Banner newspaper. Okay, the Bossier Banner. Now here is the Bossier Banner, February 23rd. I want to share this with the family here about my great grandfather here. He got into some trouble. As you see here, we see that date, okay? The Bossier Banner, February 23rd, 1905. Okay? You go to the second column. Interesting story about him here. Now, Pink. Now, he was also called Pink. All right, let's blow this up. He was serious business. He was serious. Pink Grissett shot and probably mortally wounded Tom Burns at Whited and Weiss logging camp near Ivan Monday night. The weapon used being a shotgun. The wound inflicted was most horrible, as it is said that one side of the face is literally almost torn away. And look at this, family. Both are colored. This is powerful material evidence, because I thought that the homestead patents were for pale skins. This is 1905, 2 years after my great grandfather was issued his land patent. According to last reports, Grissett is still at large. Now, well, he didn't get into trouble. He didn't get into trouble because he's on the 1910 census, 1920 census, still with his land, 1920, right? But for some reason, this guy Tom pissed him off and he shot his face off. Okay, but both are colored. Now, let me show you another Bossier newspaper article. And this is why these newspaper articles are important. Now, this is how I found out about Pinckney Grissett's father, who's Thomas Grissett. And now, as I mentioned, my great grandmother Martha, her first child, what was his name? Thomas Grissett. We passed down names. So, but Thomas Grissett is a ghost, family, nowhere to be found in none of those Ancestry, MyHeritage, nothing. But I was going through the Bossier Banner, and look what I found here. So there's actually a section on people who have patented lands. And so, let me blow this up so everyone can see this here. Let me make this bigger. Make it bigger here. Okay, you should be able to see this here, okay? And this is the title of the section. Owners whose addresses are unknown. We get all these names of these owners. Margaret Bell. And all these are patented lands, family. John A. Bowles, Alfred Brown, Melissa Darling. Look at this. Thomas Grissett. Now, so when I saw this, family, the first thing I did was I took these coordinates and I put them into BLM to see what pops up, right? So let's do that now together. So we got section 28, township 17, right? Let's go to BLM. Let's go to land patents. State, Louisiana. Last name, Reset. Now, names are very case sensitive here with, no. Yeah. See, the names are so sensitive. It has to be, because sometimes they'll misspell the name in BLM. So the better way to do it, family, is to do the coordinates. Don't put the name in. You can put the state, and let's go back to see what the section was. Okay, section 28, township 17. Okay, township 17. Let's see, section 28. Let's go back here. Township 17, range 11. Okay, range 11. Range 11. It doesn't tell us if it's north or west or anything, does it? Let's see. East, northwest. Okay, well, let's see. We put that in there, see what pops up here. Meridian, that will be Louisiana. And look at this, Ron. Thomas, but look at this, family. See what BLM did? Griselle. See? They intentionally misspelled the name, and that's he's a ghost. They don't want me finding this. But when we go to the newspaper, Thomas Grisette spelled correctly with his land patent coordinates. But BLM intentionally misspelled the name to Grissel. See, had I not known about this newspaper, I wouldn't have ever found his land patent. See, that's why when your ancestors when they have chosen you and you're worthy, they work through us, family, and they will guide us to them. This is divine work. So click on this. And we get this here. Issue date, March 20th, 1877, which meant he had to cultivate the land 7 years before he filed the patent application. So he had it right around 1870. Surveyed it off, everything like that. 80 acres. Canceled? No, still valid. Okay, now let's show the patent here. Right here. We just seen Pinckney when it's the father. Okay. Based upon the May 20th, 1862, to secure homestead to actual settlers on public domain. Thomas Grisette has been established and duly consummated. And these are the description, containing 80 acres and 1,400 hundredths of an acre. Okay. And of course, there's no mutilation on this land patent here. There's no lines drawn through it. Okay, but they made it impossible to find. But with the grace of my ancestry, they're guiding me and right to them. Okay, so now let's go to the satellite map so we can actually see what this stuff looks like, family. Hold on. Let's go here. Let's see here. No, let's go to the patent here. Go to the patent. And let's go to the description. And you can see this together here, right? Okay, so we are section 28. So let's put that in there. Section 28, Township 17, North. Okay, hold on. Let's go to the map. Section 28 here. Okay. Section 28, let's put this in there. 28, Township 17, North, right? Let's go back to it. Section 28, Township 17, North, Range 11 West, okay? 11 west. 17 north, 11 west. 11 west. Meridian, okay. Meridian, no, screw that. State, Louisiana. Put that in there. Louisiana. And let's hit go. Okay, so satellite image is coming up for us here. I'm kind of moving slowly. What is that? Oh, it's moving kind of slow here. Let's pop it up again here. It's kind of moving slow here. Hold on a second. Let's do it up again here. Let's see here. Bear with me here. We'll get to this here. Right here. Okay. Here. Pull the link up again. Okay. Okay, so that was section 28, township 17, north. And I believe it was 11 west, right? Township 17, north, 11 west, right? 11 west. Okay, 11 west. State, Louisiana. Okay, hit go. Satellite image. Can blow it up. Okay, we see that blue dot there. So let's blow this area up here. What did you say, Washington? Oh, searching. Okay, still searching. Hold on, family. This thing's not acting right here. Huh. You're the one that's looking at this here, I guess. Wow. It's not working here for some reason, family. Hold on a second here. What's going on here? It was working in yesterday's presentation. For some reason, it's no one to cooperate. Okay. All right, well, okay, it's not cooperating today there, family, so we can't look at that. But again, so we see that, and then, for your genealogy is gonna, the true power of it will lead you to your ancestral inheritance. Okay, and then we have to get all these records from us to that patent holder, right? Um, and and then from us, then our birth certificates, of course, lead it to your father or mother, right? Their death certificates, and then from there, from my father to my grandfather, you have to have a connection, and then from your grandfather to your great grandfather, right? and great great grandfather, etc. So long as you can draw those connections, and that functions as your exhibit. And of course, that's all you'll attest to that under oath that that evidence is true under penalty of perjury. And any challengers must also swear under oath, and coming with your true genealogy is not going to dispute that what you have. So anyone who wants to dispute your genealogy, they'd have to swear under oath and present what they would term your true genealogy. But no one can do that, right? And that's how it works. Genealogy will get you your damages. Genealogy will get you your remedy. And that's why they kept it from us, family. They didn't want you getting into that. Samples of your DNA and selling out to these people out in China and no telling what they're doing with your DNA, giving it out to third parties, creating and all kinds of death shots targeting specific people because they got your gene, they got your samples of your DNA. Right? That's what that's really about. Okay? We'll pay these people to promote those businesses, 23andMe, oh, do this, do that, because they want your sample of your DNA to create bioweapons. Okay? The only thing that's going to connect you to an ancestor is your genealogy. The only thing that's going to connect you to that land patent is genealogy. All right? So I just wanted to share that information with the family. Let people know that when it comes to giving any legal advice, you only get legal advice from those who are competent and knowledgeable and who have bars, stripes, victories, no losers. They got to show and prove their resume, what they accomplished. You got to see that. Because we can't play around and give wrong advice and get people caught up and screwed because they can never be able to get back. And that would be a tragedy for someone. Okay? So, and we'll again, always continue with this here. And if anyone needs any help with genealogy, reach out to me. Because many of you may have found certain land assets that you think your family may have, but you got to, again, the most important thing is to connect yourself to that land patent holder 100%. Once you do that, then you basically have your Powerball ticket. But now it's not easy because you're going to need to, remember that legal realm is a battlefield. And those three-headed demons and dragons are powerful. So, but you're going to have more power to be able to slay them and defeat them to be made whole again, and to be restituted and put back in the place you would have been had it not been for the injury. Okay, so hopefully the ROI, return on investment, was 1,000-fold for you guys there. That's what it's always about, bringing valuable information. Okay, and then next time I will get this darn map to working, family, there, so we could look over at at what's on the land there. All right, so again, thanks and have a good night. And again, my email is there, so reach out to me. And if you have any questions or anything, feel free to reach out to me privately, and we'll talk. Okay, so have a great night.